It's great to have you here. Greetings, jocks. This is the recap of the Anon series called Parallel World Pharmacy. Its main genre is medical. Before we get started, we wanted to take a moment and ask you guys to subscribe our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon below. And don't forget to like our video in order to watch more recaps in the future. I'm definitely sure you will enjoy it. Season Parallel World Pharmacy was a part of a campaign to bring awareness to the professions and practices of the pharmaceutical field. Let's get into it. In Episode 1, Kanji Yukitani works obsessively as a pharmacist, creating cures for diseases in memory of his sister who died from a tumor. He dies in his sleep from overwork, but abruptly awakens in an alternate world as a boy named Pharma de Medicis, whose family, the de Medicis, served the royal family as doctors. Pharma is shocked to learn magic known as divine arts exists, and upon testing his powers, finds that he can summon all the elements of the periodic table using his knowledge of chemistry. Playing on the idea he has amnesia, he convinces his father Bruno to let him return to studying with his tutor Eleanor. He learns divine arts encompass earth, air, fire, water, and none. But none is extinct. Eleanor discovers that next to his odd change in his personality, Pharma's magical capacity has increased almost to infinity. He possesses the divine eye that can detect all illness and injury, and his body no longer casts a shadow. In Episode 2, Pharma visits Eleanor at her home, but finds her terrified as she believes him to be one of the Panactheos, the gods who rule divine arts. Pharma asks her to return to being his tutor, as he is still a novice, but will leave her alone if she wishes. Eleanor practicing with the divine eye, Pharma begins diagnosing and creating treatments for the household servants. But after Charlotte explains the de Medicis only serve royalty and medicines from commoner doctors are expensive, he decides to make medicine available for all social classes. Pharma's sister Blanche contracts chickenpox. Pharma creates a treatment using techniques from Earth, but as no one in this world knows of these treatments, he makes Blanche a promise to keep it secret. Bruno is surprised at Blanche's quick recovery, but doesn't seem suspicious. In Episode 3, Pharma and Bruno visit Empress Elizabeth, and Bruno concludes Elizabeth's condition will soon be fatal. Pharma secretly uses Divine Eye and diagnoses her with White Death, so he claims to Elizabeth before all her physicians that he can save her. Bruno angrily claims no cure for White Death exists, so Pharma reveals Bruno is also suffering from White Death in its early stages. Bruno attacks Pharma, but Pharma stops him with an ice wall, revealing his powers. Bruno realizes Pharma is not the son he once knew and is convinced the Panactheos sent Pharma medicinal revelations. Using his pocket microscope, Pharma proves to the court physicians that Elizabeth has tiny creatures in her lungs and explains the existence of bacteria. Elizabeth agrees to take Pharma's medicine for the 6 months required. Returning home, Bruno re-examines his own approach to medicine, as well as his failings as a parent. Pharma asks Bruno to continue teaching him, as despite his powers he must still learn to be a doctor. Surprised, Bruno agrees, accepts Pharma is still his son, and takes the medicine to cure his own tuberculosis. In Episode 4, Pharma's treatment of Elizabeth is hailed as a miracle, but Bruno warns his knowledge could be seen as heresy and that someone may have infected Elizabeth on purpose. Noah, a page in Elizabeth's court, informs Pharma that Elizabeth intends to reward him, and Pharma decides he wants to open a pharmacy that treats nobles and commoners. Elizabeth worries she is unfit to rule until Pharma convinces her she is still needed. Months later, with Elizabeth completely recovered, Bruno is awarded new lands, and Pharma is promoted to royal pharmacist and allowed to open a pharmacy in the capital. Pharma designs his ideal pharmacy, but due to talking to himself and other miscommunications, the pharmacy is accidentally named Parallel World Pharmacy. Almost immediately, Varen, head of the St. Flu Pharmaceutist Guild, attempts to undermine Pharma and is furious his medicines will be cheap enough for commoners, but he is scared away by Eleanor before he can cause trouble. In Episode 5, in his first month, Pharma has only one customer, a sailor named Jean who buys sweets made to cure scurvy. Bruno and Pharma's mother Beatrice visit, and Beatrice suggests selling cosmetics, but Bruno adamantly opposes face powder, as ladies who use it invariably die young. Pharma is impressed Bruno noticed, since primitive makeup often contains lead, toxic when applied to skin. Pharma suddenly receives a customer, the noble Claude de Chatillon. He diagnoses her with anemia caused by bloodletting, a primitive procedure to make skin paler. Pharma creates a non-toxic makeup that moisturizes and prevents sunburn, with which Claude is thrilled. Pharma is soon swamped by customers desperate for makeup of noble quality that is affordable. Claude is so thankful. She offers to finance a separate shop focused solely on cosmetics, with Pharma as manager and staffed by young female pharmacists who all lost jobs due to having children. In episode 6, Pharma and his family visit Bruno's new lands, the Duchy of Marseilles, which includes ports and farmland. At the beach, Pharma reminisces about visiting the beach in Japan with his sister Chai. Blanche is suddenly swept away by a ripped tide. Pharma swims after her and in his desperation, activates power that splits the ocean and allows him to carry Blanche to safety along the ocean floor. Eleanor is shocked as Pharma's power was clearly a negative attribute to Vine Art. He didn't move the water, he deleted it from existence, which is impossible. Pharma is touched when Jean and his crew, grateful for his anti-scurvy sweets, arrive to help clean up along with other shop owners who volunteer as good neighbors. A woman suddenly arrives claiming her father is unwell. Pharma leaves to treat him but is lured to a deserted field, where he is confronted by a diocese inquisitor. In episode 7, Grand Inquisitor Salomon and his fellow priests attack Pharma, believing him to be an evil spirit in human guise. But Pharma easily wards off their magical assaults while pleading to them that he means no harm to anyone. Pharma prevents Salomon from committing suicide to atone for his sin and performs emergency surgery to mend the Inquisitor's leg, which was severely broken during the attack. A month later, Salomon, fully recovered, visits Pharma and takes a tour of the pharmacy, assuring Pharma that he will keep his existence secret from the diocese in gratitude for saving his life. He also brings several gifts, including a set of pastries, a divine staff named the Panic Rabdos, and a talisman which suppresses Pharma's divine art aura, allowing him to cast a shadow. In episode 8, enraged that his efforts to ruin Pharma have failed, Varen forbids his guild members from having anything to do with the shop. Pierre fails to find a doctor who will help Marie, until Pharma invites them to his pharmacy and gives Marie, who has contracted influenza, excellent care and affordable prices despite their lower class. Pierre admits he took Marie to Pharma and that Saint Fleuve should be learning from him, not despising him. Varen reveals one of his children died because a noble doctor refused to treat him, so he will never trust Pharma. Pierre is expelled from the guild, his pharmacist license revoked and his shop destroyed. Upon learning this, Pharma invites Pierre to join the compounding pharmacy guild he recently set up with Elizabeth's permission, allowing Pierre to continue working as a pharmacist. With the support of his wife and daughter, Pierre learns Pharma's diagnostic techniques and stocks only Pharma's advanced medicines before opening his new shop, the Dawn Pharmacy. In episode 9, Elizabeth reviews the positive impacts of parallel world pharmacy on public health and therefore the Empire's prosperity, and decides to continue assisting Pharma's endeavors. Bruno de Medicis is painfully reminded of Camus de Sade, his former peer and friend who was banished for conducting abominable medical experiments on human subjects. He receives a letter from his older son Paul, announcing the appearance of a strange deadly epidemic originating from Panty Island, from which wares are imported that may contaminate the upcoming annual Saint Fleuve fair at the imperial capital. Bruno asks Pharma to investigate, and from the available descriptions, Pharma identifies the disease as the Black Death. Pharma, Bruno and Elizabeth immediately initiate quarantine and medical precautions with the help of their fellow students and pharmacists, before Pharma and Eleanor depart for Marseilles, where the wares from Pant are supposed to arrive. In episode 10, upon their arrival in Marseilles, Pharma and Eleanor begin inspecting the merchant ships that are impatiently waiting to make landfall, assisted by Saint Fleuve's naval forces, whose leader is Commodore Jean-Alain Gabain, Pharma's old regular for scurvy cure. While no outbreaks have occurred in the port itself, Pharma receives news that a village named Lee Stack was struck by the plague after a ship had illegally docked there to avoid the quarantine. Riding the Panic Rabdos, Pharma departs for Lee Stack alone and arrives just in time to prevent some desperate villagers from leaving and thus spreading the infection. With his rank as a royal pharmacist, He rallies the survivors and organizes treatment measures in the town. And after initial preparations are completed, he enters the section in which the most critical cases have been isolated. In episode 11, Pharma's team, with the aid of several diocese members, works hard in preventing an outbreak of the Black Death, but realizes that they will need more assistance. Professor Casper, a specialist for the taxonomy of fungi and microorganisms at the Imperial School of Pharmacy, is nearing her mandatory retirement when Bruno asks her to assist. The diocese intercepts several crew members from the rogue ship who have made landfall with some of their cargo. And Pharma learns that not only did they bring some rare white squirrels from Pante which would act as plague carriers, but also 5 holy knights from Netherland who boarded in the midst of the ship's voyage. Connecting the dots to Elizabeth's illness, Pharma and Bruno conclude that someone is plotting to eradicate the St. Fleuve Empire using virulent diseases. This theory is validated the next morning when a knight suddenly breaches the capital's gates and releases a huge number of white squirrels into the city. In episode 12, as Bruno and Elizabeth discuss the crisis, they suspect that Camus has his hands in the outbreak by killing the King of Netherland and is using the nation's resources to take revenge on St. Fleuve for his banishment. Bishop Salomon stops the enemy knights, who confirm Camus' involvement, but the infection has spread quickly all over the city because the squirrels carrying the plague can fly. Pharma returns to the capital and reunites with his father, but Camus infiltrates the parallel world pharmacy and stabs Cedric and Lot with a poison dagger. Pharma and Bruno arrive, and while Bruno fights Camus, Pharma discovers that the poison is actually a cocktail of several deadly substances, forcing him to neutralize them one at a time. When Camus overcomes Bruno, Pharma fights back and employs his divine art and the Panic Grabdos power to destroy Camus and the demonic power which possessed him. Following this, the outbreak is swiftly quelled, and Pharma's successes inspire the rapid advancement of medical research. The St. Fleuve Festival proceeds as planned, and Parallel World Pharmacy once again opens for business. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with all your friends who you think would also enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.